Good evening, modelers and friends of Stunthangar. I'm Rusty, one of the Stunthangar members, and we are live on the air on Monday, April 23rd, 2018, and got another weekend behind us. We had nice weather down here. It was good for getting out in the shop or getting out to the field, so I hope you all had some fun this weekend. And wow, we got 2 viewers already. Thanks, you guys that sign in on YouTube. You must get the ding because we're recording as public nowadays. Hey, Kevin. Uh, good evening, and you are muted. Let me see if I can unmute you. See if you can unmute your mic, Kevin, or your camera's not on either. But let me check my settings and make sure I'm not accidentally blocking anybody with my cameraman application here. And no, I'm not. So you should be able to get your mic on and your camera on and visit. Until you do, we're broadcasting public right now, and Kevin disappeared. He'll be back as soon as he gets plugged in or whatever needs to be done. But we're running as advertised as public now, and we'd been unlisted for a while, but went back to public just to see how it works and if we don't have any unusual distractions. Oh, Kevin, sorry about that. No camera or mic, huh? What are you using? Are you using a PC or a telephone or tablet or what? Some of those look different and operate differently. But any case, you can watch on YouTube if you're subscribed to Sparky's Stunthangar channel. You get the notifications that go ding when the bell rings, and you can link into the YouTube watch page from there and use the chat box like Kevin's doing right now. Or you can go to the At the Bench thread under streaming videos on the main Stunthangar homepage and come in here with us on camera. So either way you prefer, we're glad to have you, however you want to do it. If you've got a bandwidth problem, you don't have a camera or a mic, oh well, we're glad to have you anyway. And so you can participate in our discussions when we get somebody else to talk with. We've actually got 5 YouTube viewers right now, and so maybe some of them will join us live and we can get a show going. And usually these shows take a little while to get rolling. We finally loosen up and start having some pretty fun conversations. And so Monday nights are a little bit more laid back sometimes, but you never know when fun's going to break out. So they're all listed in the reruns too. If you want to watch that way, you can catch them the next day. But anyway, I got out to the shop, worked on the Cardinal some more this weekend, and it's time to start building the wing. The fuselage is all done except for dope and paper, but I can do that at my leisure. I've got everything I need to do it. I got actually doctor paper for it, and I got a couple of quarts of clear dope, Brodac dope, butyrate, and so yeah, if I can get out there one day this week, we'll have it done. And I am going to replace the 4 24 by 24 sheetrock tiles on my on the glass on my tabletop and jig up the wing. And the wings I like, they're relaxing to build and easy for me. I like building wings. I don't like building fuselages. I get tired of it. Oh, hey, Minnesota Mike's on with us. How you doing tonight, Mike? Glad to see you. And how did you do at the races the other day? Were you just spectating, or were you watching, or were you actually racing? And Mike's a drag racer. He's got a awesome Mopar and drag bikes too. So you gotta you got to have balls of steel to pull the trigger on those drag bikes. I tell you what, um, that's a that's really what you call a crotch rocket. Strapping yourself to that sucker and pulling the trigger takes a lot of nerve. And oh, he was putting for a friend. Okay, so Mike was somebody's pit guy. I guess that's what putting for a friend means. Ah, let my cigarette go cold. I guess I need to smoke harder. Anyway, you guys come on in. Got 7 viewers now. So come on in and get your coffee and your cigarettes or whatever it takes to inspire you. Yeah, pitting. I figured that's what that meant. Well, did y'all bring home any trophies? If you hadn't figured it out yet, I'm talking to Mike over on YouTube. I guess all 7 of you know that, because I don't have any live faces on camera to look at yet. And I'm on another little forum called Cox Engine Forums. And as opposed to its name, it's not all about Cox and Half A. We talk about all different types of planes, trains, and automobiles on there too. And one of my buddies, his name is Andrus. He's from Hungary. And I've never met him in person, but he's an engineering consultant with power companies, and he comes to the United States a lot. And he came through Charlotte today, and since he was in my neighborhood, he stopped and picked up the phone and gave me a call, and we talked in person the first time. And that's what I love about this hobby and modern technology is we're connected all over the world, and you get to meet people like that all everywhere that you would have never had the opportunity to meet before. And I love talking to somebody who I admire, Andrus. You know, he's living where it used to be behind the Iron Curtain, and now they're not, and they're part of the rest of the world now. And aeromodeling is big, strong sport over in lots of Eastern and Western Europe. And so it was a thrill to get to meet him almost in person. I didn't actually get to see him face to face, but um, I've met so many people from the forums. It kind of makes them real. You know, people kind of chuckle when you call forum people, other forum people, friends, and you know, they're like, friends, really? You don't even know these people. But in our hobby, with contests where we all gather together, and now with the internet, we all talk to each other, and here on video, that sort of thing, we get to meet the people and put a face to the name. And yeah, Minnesota Mike says the Russian free flight's huge. Yeah, you know what? They in some places in Europe, a lot of places in Europe, aero modeling is big. They are um, written up in the newspaper and admired by the public. And over here in America, we're just a bunch of old gray-haired noisemakers having too much fun, and that's a shame. I hope you know. I hope it's not. Maybe we worry about control line dying off too much. Maybe electric will keep it going for longer than it would have without the new battery and motor technology. And maybe over in Europe and other countries too. Maybe they're not as addicted to video games and sitting inside on the couch like we seem to be over here, uninterested in learning and experiencing new things like we did back when our parents used to boot us out the back door and didn't worry about us unless we didn't show up for supper. And let's see, Minnesota Mike, we had the World Free Flight Contest in California last February. Oh, really? I didn't know that. I've never actually seen a free flight contest, but my buddy's into soaring, both full-size sailplanes and model sailplanes. But free flight is even, well, I was going to say better. It's a lot different because you got to have a vehicle if your plane doesn't come down where you wanted it to, or if it doesn't return to home base. And Lost Hills, that was the name of the area where Mike evidently used to fly free flight. And I know we got some soaring enthusiasts in our regular crowd that comes on here. And I don't know, I'll ask them about free flight. I wouldn't be surprised if Terry, one of our regulars, is a free flighter, but I've never heard him. Don't remember ever hearing him talk about it. So we might look into that tonight. If anybody joins me, we got 8 YouTube viewers now. And I'm going to ramble on as long as it takes. It's almost 10 o'clock Eastern time now, and I'm usually go on till midnight or 12:30, depending on how the conversations are going. But I need somebody to back me up and help with the conversation. You YouTube guys are, I appreciate y'all's presence. I need somebody to talk to too. Mike says I have 30 free flight planes. It gets pretty crazy. And Gerald. Hey, Gerald. Gerald from New Zealand just checked in. He's going to join us live in a minute. One of our valued regular customers. But anyway, look, you guys, let's see. Oh, Jamie won't be on stream, but watching from a tablet in a hotel. Okay, Jamie. And that was so they don't have a good enough Wi-Fi system in some of the hotels. I guess that's what the problem is there. I know when we have contests in Huntersville, I don't even hook up to the Wi-Fi at the Super 8 that we stay in up there, because it's so lame that you can't get enough broadband to transmit and receive a video signal. But anyway, thanks for joining, Jamie. What'd you do today, Jamie? Gerald Wimmer just hit us with the super chat. Thanks, Gerald. We appreciate that. That's some walking around money that Sparky has now that will support what we're doing here, because it takes fees paid to keep the server up to date, and also equipment too. And it's a royal pain in the ass funding all of this. And actually, we're lucky to have Sparky to do this service that he's providing for us, that allows me to get on and talk to you people, which I really like doing. I've been doing it for just about a year now, maybe a year and a month. I can't remember exactly how much, but I don't think I've missed a single show except for maybe one in December, and one when something else was going on, had visitors in the house or something. Maybe over Christmas we took a day off, but I've done a bunch of them twice a week for over a year. Heater 777, Rick from Las Vegas, checking in for as long as I can. Okay, Rick, thanks for coming in. I don't believe we've met yet. From Las Vegas, do you know Dane Martin? I think Dane lives in Las Vegas. And I think Dane's actually been on here with us live before, but only once. there's a few people like Dane that I really should contact on Stunthangar, send them a PM. Minnesota Mike, how much do you change the amount on Super Chat? You mean how much do we get out of that donation? Actually, Mike, not much. YouTube takes more of it than we get. If that's what you're asking, I'm not sure. Oh, how do you change it? I don't know. I've never actually used it. And Gerald's here. Hey, Gerald.
Hi, Rusty, and hello to Jamie and Mike that were on the chat.
Yeah.
Well, nice to see you.
And Otto's joined us as well tonight.
Yeah.
Hey, Otto. Good. Glad to see you. So, did y'all have a decent weather weekend, or is it still blowing over there?
It's a bit windy, but relatively good.
Yeah, we went flying on Sunday, and you put in some good flights. You, Otto?
Yeah.
Good.
I've been practicing loops, figure eights. I mean, lazy eights.
Yeah. Lazy eights is a good start because you can turn those into inverted flight when you get ready. Have you been able to fly any inverted laps yet?
No, but
Part laps.
Part laps. But
yeah.
I'm getting.
You know, when you do lazy eights, I like to stand sometimes and fly the plane from shoulder to shoulder. Just stand still and fly almost, but not quite out of sight. If you let it get out of sight, it'll get ahead of you. But then sometime when you're upside down coming back, just start turning around and follow the plane around and do that for one lap. And then, you know, the more you get used to it, do it for two. That's one way of learning to do lazy eights. John Sanchez said Gerald just had a birthday. Is that true, Gerald? Did you just?
Yeah.
Well, happy birthday, old boy.
Well, thank you.
And welcome, John. Thanks for dropping in.
Well, thank you, John.
And we've got Rick, who calls himself Heater 777, just picking up control line again. Picked up some plans and looking forward to flying Stunt again. Yeah, welcome back to the sport. If you've been off for a while, then it's you know, it's so much fun.
Yeah, on that note, we had an interesting event on Sunday. We were flying with a chap who was ex-Air Force. He was in the New Zealand Air Force back in the 50s, and he last flew control line, and I think it was 1953. And one of the guys in the club was keen to get him behind the handle and said, "Okay, Gerald, you go out and help him get him flying again after 1953." And he took it up so easily. It was amazing. He put in a couple of flights,
Really,
a little bit at first, and he got a little bit dizzy on the second flight. It was going a bit faster, but initially we slowed the model right down. We were doing 9-second lap time, so he got plenty of time to think about it. And then we sped it up to probably like a 7-second lap time on the second flight. And he was able to, I did the takeoff for him, but he flew out the whole tank and landed the model on the second flight. And he was wrapped. He had a big smile glued on his face. It was a long time.
If you ain't smiling when you land, you're doing something wrong. So is that the same sort of planes he was flying back in the day? That size plane?
I think he was flying smaller models back in the day. Most of people in New Zealand tended to fly in the 1950s, at least. They flew English models with English diesels on them. And we got him up flying a friend's large plane with a 30 on it. But it was going slowly and didn't have too much line tension.
That's good. Well, the bigger ones are so much easier to fly than those teeny little planes.
Yeah, you like them too as well, don't you? You prefer a bigger model now?
Yeah, well, it's just when the wind comes, it just goes all over the show.
Yeah, the little models are a lot more challenging.
Yeah.
But they take.
I didn't know that bigger models existed back then. When I was 12 and picked up my first handle and had no idea. And it took me a lot of flights and a lot of wreckage before I was able to fly a full tank out. But I started with a Cox Stuka, which was a huge mistake, but we didn't know any better. And then my dad brought home a PT-19 that rubber banded together, and then I learned how to fly because we could just strap it back together and try again without breaking too much plastic.
Yeah, we tried the water, a PT-19, but by now the plastic had got brittle and the elevator horn just snapped off when we tried the first flight with it.
Yeah, I warped mine. I left it on the back dashboard of the car, and the hot summer sun warped the wing. So I ended up finding a new one on eBay and buying it, and we're still wearing that plane out. I think the front end of it's all wood now, and so it looks like a classic old car, a Woody. We used to call them. You know, they used to have the wood panels on the sides, and this one's got that on the nose. It's got a balsa nose, and the rest of it's plastic. George Gonzalez is here. Oh, he says happy birthday too. And George, did you ever figure out how to get into Stunthangar after we sent you your new password? I'm hoping everything's okay with that, but I wanted to know so that you can come in live with us. And George is in Colombia, South America, or Argentina. I forget. I think it's Colombia. Kevin McElroy's on here with us too. He says he was out of the hobby for 20 years. He was an advanced flyer, and finally Friday got in some outside loops and inverted flight. Felt great knowing he could still fly. Yeah, bet you were grinning when you put the handle down too.
Oh, it's great getting people back into it.
It is, yeah.
It's often harder to pick up newcomers, but there are plenty of people that have flown in the past, and it's just encouraging them to get back into it. A lot of them seem to find they've got trouble with their eyesight when they're flying radio and come back to control line. I've seen that a lot with our experiences here in New Zealand. You seem to
I hadn't thought of that. I guess if failing eyesight would be a reason to switch back to control line, because you don't really have to have a keen eye on the plane like you do for a remote control plane.
Yeah.
I have enough problem with my good vision watching remote control planes because sometimes you see illusions about which way they're flying, whether they're upright or inverted. I guess that's the reason for different paint jobs on top and bottom.
Yeah, just whether it's coming towards you or going away from you. Once it gets quite distant, then it becomes very hard to tell, and you've got a position where you lose it.
We were talking a little about free flight before you guys came on. I was talking with the YouTubers, and Minnesota Mike has done some free flight, and he said that maybe Gerald. He said he thinks Gerald does free flight. Is that true? Have you done any free flight? I don't remember talking about it.
Not really competitively. I've done a bit of free flight. Mainly, I like the indoor rubber. I like flying indoor rubber scale, and I've done a little bit of outdoor rubber scale too. But the actual club we belong to is the Auckland Free Flight Club. So we've got some very keen free flight enthusiasts that don't actually fly any control line.
Yeah,
the mix is pretty much half and half free flight flyers to control line flyers. But yeah, control line, at least you can fly it in a small park close to the city. There's generally places, whereas for free flight, especially with larger models, they need to be flown where you've got that space. And a little stop.
That sounded like it was right here in the room with me.
Oh no, it's just a battery charger.
Charging up a battery with the hope that we might get in a flight later for my electric model. But yeah, there is some good free flight flying that happens, but it's normally always early in the morning or late in the evening. And
when the wind's down.
Yeah. Not a good event for the middle of the day. So some of the guys will go and fly free flight in the morning, then come along to a control line event when it gets a bit windy.
Now, I guess you want a day without many thermals when you're excuse me, when you're free flighting, because a thermal could take one a long way away, couldn't it?
Yeah, most of them have some sort of dethermalizer on it that'll they'll work out their maximum flight time that they want for a flight, and they'll set their timer on it, and it'll hopefully take them out of a thermal if they do get carried up in a thermal.
It's
But
just flaps or something that come down.
different methods, but the traditional method was a T-tail that would pop up. It would be on a rubber band. In the old days, they'd have a fuse, and then it would flip up,
Yeah.
and that would put into a full-on stall, and it would just go into a series of mild stalls and
Just
come
kills.
down. But yeah, even some of the hand-launched gliders, the little chuck gliders, will have a dethermalizer on them. Most rubber models, once they get to a reasonable size, will have a dethermalizer, and some even have a radio transmitter in their free-flight models to help locate them. They've got specially built radio transmitter arrangement where the transmitter's on the model, and you go along with the receiver trying to find the signal from your model if it's landed in a cornfield or something.
Yeah.
You can locate your model. But I'm not. I prefer to just muck around free flight. I'm not a competition flyer. But yeah, there's some really keen people out there that dedicate all their time purely to free flight.
I've watched the guys that fly inside, and they're flying these tiny little gossamer wing planes, and they're just beautiful little machines, but just the tiniest thing you could ever imagine. And I mean, they have to turn the fans off and the air conditioning and everything so that the air is as still as possible, and fly those.
Yeah, they don't like people walking through the door suddenly and creating this big inrush of air.
Yeah. Oh, George Gonzalez said he tried to free fly a Cox 049 and lost 2 of them, and then he decided control line was probably a better idea. Oh, George, while I'm talking to you, I see that you said you'd submitted a new registration for Stunthangar, so I'll remind Sparky, and I'll PM him tonight and remind him to go ahead and approve it. So you should be in. It took me a couple of days before, and I forgot to send your password with the message I sent, so we'll get that straight. And Jamie posted us a super chat. Thank you, Jamie. I appreciate that. And Jamie says he posted some flight videos from Saturday. All right, Jamie, we're going to have to take a look at that.
Yeah, I'll have to go looking for that too. Jamie's been putting out some nice new models.
Yeah, he's got a nice looking twister that's coming along really quick. Now, I finally got the fuselage finished on mine. In fact, I got a folder with some pictures in it I'll show when we get some more people in here. But right now it's just you two and me on the live side, but we've got a pretty healthy YouTube YouTube crowd right now. And let's see, Rick says he's flown RC for years, missing the fun of CL, but he got a profile scratch built Ringmaster to get his feet wet again, a Brodak Nobler kit too. So good. Everybody join the fun. I think people in RC forget how much fun, after a while, how much fun it is to fly control line.
Yeah, that's that direct feel. I think that you can't beat that. Free flight's fun, RC is fun, but nothing beats control line for that real feeling that you're in touch with your model. Being able to feel.
You are part of the machine. That's what I like about it. And RC people will argue that they are too, that they are in touch with the plane and actually feel the plane. But I tend to think they're stretching that imagination a bit.
Well, there's one reason I don't like RC. It's just you get to the point where it's just like miles and miles away, and it's just like this blip, like this little dot going through the sky. So yeah, and then you lose it off, and then it's not as fun.
Yeah, I suppose for me, the most fun part of RC would probably be flying a 3D model close in, and that's only because it mimics control line.
Yeah,
the most light control line. But
yeah,
you fly it around yourself and do silly maneuvers close to the ground because it's got some of the attributes of the control line model. The other aspect that I do like of RC though is to get a free flight style model, especially a vintage model. And
Out at the RC club where I fly control line, we got a guy that has a 3D extra, and it's a real treat to watch that fly. And he can do some amazing things with that plane. And he actually uses that. I think he uses that same plane to competitively fly the RC stunt pattern, the official RC stunt pattern. But I have watched him do that a couple of times and enjoyed that, because I'm not, I watch control line patterns, and then when I see the RC, I realize they can roll, and we can't roll like that. So that adds another dimension to their flying.
There's some brilliant RC scale models out there that have so much put into them. You realize people have got a real passion for it as well. And often when we go to our nationals, we get to see all the different disciplines. You'll see RC scale, RC pylon, RC pattern, and we'll go and have a look at what the other disciplines are doing. And it's just a nice change to see what somebody else is doing and trying to gain an appreciation, even if you never do it yourself.
Yeah.
It's just the RC helicopters are a whole world to themselves. The RC the stunt helicopters, watching a RC helicopter fly inverted, you just realize there's a lot of skill out there.
When our helicopter guy comes out to the field, I open the door on my car and stand behind the door and watch through the open window in case it gets loose. Because I tell you what, if a linkage snapped or something like that, you wouldn't have time to think about which way to run to get away from that thing. And it's just scary how fast those things can move too. It's hard to believe they hold together as well as they do with the stresses on them.
Yeah, well, it's quite disheartening though when you see one do the chicken hop, as they call it, where it's out of control and it hits the ground and it crumbles itself into parts as it tears itself up.
Yeah, they call that the chicken dance, and when they keep running and just beat themselves to death for a couple of minutes.
Yeah. One thing
there's a whole bunch of chicken dances on YouTube too. If you do a search for helicopter chicken dance. What were you saying, Otto? I think I stepped on you.
So you see, it's just quite strange how all these people just go to make these giant RC models, and then they get to the point where it's like a small person could hop in them.
Yeah.
They're just getting a bit ridiculous. At that rate, they might as well just have a real plane.
Yeah, I was joking with one guy. Said, "Man, I could throw a saddle over that, and you could fly me down to the sub shop down the street. Let me get some lunch and fly me back." It really looks like you could.
It sort of gets into the one-upmanship like monster trucks or something, where it just gets excessive in some people's eyes. But I suppose they're having so much fun, they don't know where to stop. And when you look at some of the RC jet models, those huge turbine models, they look scary large. They're just so big and so fast.
Yeah, I mean, they've got half scale and 3/4 scale planes, the ones that really go wild with it. And I'd never seen anything that big. When I first got back into control line and joined the club, and it was like most of them, it was a combination of RC club and control line. And one guy had a Pitts special out there, and I told him, when you ever fly this thing, call me on the phone and let me know. I want to come out and see this thing fly. And the first flight I ever saw of one of these big planes, he took off, and immediately, sometimes they'll take off and then immediately roll out into their pattern. And he rolled out way too soon, and the engine cut out, and he was with a tailwind, dead stick, and it just plowed in, and it was a mess. I backed the car across the field, and for the next hour we were bagging up parts. I had a bunch of grocery bags in the car for when we go to our local discount store, and you'd bring your own bags. Luckily, I had a bunch of grocery bags, and we just filled them up bit by bit and took.
one thing that happens with these big models is when they crash, they're all made out of foam or something, and they go into a million bits. But with a control line model, it just goes like into 2 or 3 bits.
A large quarter scale model or third scale model crashes, a lot of it's made out of plywood and hardwood. It's a materials.
Yeah, I was surprised. This one was built out of pretty heavy stuff. I guess it was probably aircraft ply, but still, I mean, it was a big, heavy plane. That truly was one that I thought. I mean, and it had a 4-foot prop on it. My gosh, a 4-foot Bali prop, and I really did think I could probably straddle that plane and go for a ride.
Yeah, it's so much time, energy, money, and effort gone into something. When it crashes like that, you just think, "Oh, I couldn't do that." It's just
and you got to trailer it to a field. You know, I want to throw my planes in the back of the car and go without a thought. You know, just say, "Hey, let's go fly," and throw some planes in the car and go. You know, so, but whatever turns you on. I mean, you know, people have all kinds of reasons. They like what they like.
Yeah.
Man, we got so many YouTubers, I can't keep up with their conversations over there, but they seem to be entertaining themselves. So y'all have fun while I watch it scream by.
Yeah, it's hard because I suppose for Marion watching here, we can't really go back onto YouTube and see what the chat's saying.
Yeah.
So the updates at least keep us informed on what's happening.
Yeah, I pop that chat box out and put it on my screen right next to the video window, which you can do on a PC, but it's hard to do on anything else. Telephone. Yeah. Well, we use the telephone to watch anything on the internet. It's like, to me, it's like looking at the internet through a keyhole. And I just never, I can't use my phone for a computer.
Yeah, I popped the chat out, but nothing came up on it. I don't know why. Sometimes it does. It brings up the running conversation.
It doesn't work well on phones a lot of times, especially on iPhones. Tom Creasy's over there. Hey, Tom, what are you doing over there anyway? Why don't you come in here and join us with the camera crowd?
Yeah, it'd be nice to see how his models are coming along too.
Yeah, see what his build of the week is. But I think his goal is to be the best builder he can be, and he's coming along pretty good. He comes up with some odd ideas, but hey, whatever works.
Yeah, a different approach is often exciting for others just to see how it works, and seeing how his approaches, paint schemes has been quite intuitive, and it shows there are other ways around it. We've been using acrylic for a lot of the boys' models, or acrylic enamel, and it's worked well for us.
Yeah.
And would have scoffed at by most people because it's not the conventional way of doing it, but I think Tom's shown as well it can work well.
Yeah, he has. I think he's painted a plane for less than $1.
Yeah, when you consider it, some models don't last that long, you can put a lot of effort into them. And for those models where you're still learning, those practice models, you don't want to get too carried away with elaborate finishes. That's where, like Terry says, the iron-on coverings that really save you a lot of time. And it's easy to understand why some people will forego the brilliant finish just for practicality. It's different if you're trying to enter in an event and get the maximum score, but when you're just trying to learn the pattern or improve your skills, it's nice to have those muck around models. As we go into winter now, our field's getting a little bit boggy and mucky, and you're getting the more windy weather. And I was just saying to everybody, well, we just need those muck around models now that we can practice our pattern with, but it doesn't have to look brilliant, just has to be able to do the job.
Yeah, that's what the good old styrofoam wing and you know, just a stick for a fuselage and slap them together. And Mike Leinke is a master of building those slap together planes. He can put some together, and one afternoon and he and his son Sam will take them out and fly them in the backyard, you know. And boy, Sam's gotten to be a good pilot.
Yeah, I've seen in his videos. Yeah, he's given all the other young ones something to aim for, and it is good to see other young people flying. It is not like when you've gone along to events and there've been people of a similar age flying. Yeah, when we flew up at Whangarei, we had nearly the same number of junior entrants as we did have older people flying, adults flying, and it was brilliant. It was the first time I'd seen that for a while, to have that number of junior people flying.
That's great. We've got an event for beginner juniors too. Is called the Basic Flight, and it's a series of climbs and dives, and you have to hit it's for learning your 45 degree and your 5-foot flying height, and then you can do they do some high fast flight, then they do the roller coaster at 5 to 45, and then they have the option of doing some other things like loops for extra credit, extra points, and it's a pretty good little pattern. It was drawn up by Watt Moore, one of our club members, and I think Brodak flies it, or at least it's in their catalog, and it's just called Basic Flight. And adults can fly it too if they're true beginners and can't fly any pattern yet. And so if I get to, I'll be a beginner judge this time if I do any judging, and I'll probably get to judge that. So I've been looking at that pattern and learning it, so I'll know what they're doing and score it appropriately.
It'll be a lot of fun. It's satisfying to see people advance and improve their flying, and when you're dealing with young people and they've got the best chance of beating you as they get older, you sort of think, yeah, it's just nice watching them improve. I can remember that with a few people I learnt to fly with back when I belonged to the North Shore Club. There was a mix. It was a radio mixed with Control Line Club, and some of the kids would come along, and they were kids. They were much younger than me, and then you realise it didn't take too long, and they were better at flying. A lot of them went on to fly radio, and one in particular that I knew went on to fly radio aerobatics very competitively. And you always just thought of him as little Adam, but in time he's taller than me, and obviously a much more competent flyer.
Yeah,
and it's quite satisfying just to see those people advance.
Looked like somebody just tried to join us on the video, popped in and popped out faster than I could see who it was.
Oh well, another thing that you can hop out of it.
Yeah.
You guys got on matching shirts tonight. Father and son outfit.
Check a shirt brigade.
Oh, it's Sparky. That must be who I saw pop in. Hey, Sparky.
Hey, what's going on?
Not much. We're just hanging out. We got a huge YouTube contingent tonight.
What, they can't find the link?
I don't know. Well, some of them have company in the house. Some of them have bad bandwidth because they're in hotels and various reasons like that. But and we got a couple of new people and a couple of regular tubers. So it's all good. What you up to? Are you feeling better now?
I'm still sick. I went to work sick today, but that's okay. I'll get over it.
At least you're on the mend. That's good. I was feeling kind of down all weekend, but I'm better today.
Did you have the flu, Sparky?
What? I don't know.
Oh.
I think it's food poisoning.
Oh no. Well, hopefully you'll get over it quickly. And my wife's sick with the flu.
We got this going.
Oh, Ringmaster.
Let's see. Yeah, let me click on you there. There you go. Oh yeah, I got the bosom on top with the fuel compartment.
The egg.
Yeah, that's that Easter egg.
Yeah, I thought I didn't plank the bottom yet. The wing's not glued in, it just slid in there. But I wanted to show this. This is not a real solid bell crank mount. I mean, I could pull this out because it's only on the bottom.
Yeah.
What I did was I took 2/8" pieces of balsa wood and I put them this way, up and down. So they're glued to the planking on the top and they'll be glued to the planking on the bottom, and that'll be impossible to pull out.
Yeah, I usually do something like that too on some of them.
So you've got adjustable lead-out guide on it.
Oh yeah. It'll have a adjustable wingtip weight box too. Cheek cowl.
Yeah, I like that. That's a nice, neat build. It looks good.
Will this be another G21 35 or something different?
Yeah. No, G21. It'll be my 100-mile-an-hour ringmaster.
Yeah, I was about to say that's a lot of muscle for a ringmaster.
They were a lot of fun to fly in the 70s. I don't know if I can do it anymore, but I'm going to give it a try. I'll have it at Triple Tree.
Are you going to tame the elevator through a little bit from its original 45 degrees in both directions?
No, that's on you, man. That's how much handle you put in it.
That's good.
Be able to to really snap it.
Yeah.
If you've got the horsepower, you can use it. Otherwise, you stall out. That's the difference. With the horsepower there, yeah, it can really move. Yeah. Well, my old Super Ringmaster's got a Enya 45 on it, and that's a nice combination. I like that, the 45. But I just run an 11.6 prop on it. But one time, the funny thing was we were doing a display work. We were flying at a mini air show at Ellerslie Racecourse for the public, and they were flying A-class team race. And they were short of models, and they said, we need you to fly another model. We need another model. How about flying your Ringmaster as a racer on 52-foot lines with its 45? And I was pushed into doing that one, but I could. It was funny circulating at that speed on short lines. But it was really just as a public display.
How many airplanes got in there, Gerald?
Oh, there's dozens of airplanes all around the walls. I can take the phone off and you can sort of see we've got airplanes all around the wall.
All around the
Yeah.
all over the show.
There's models all over the walls. But
Next
yeah.
thing you know, we're going to be
planes,
hearing.
got a lot of planes. You and Mike Leinke both have walls covered with planes.
We're going to be hanging them from the ceiling next thing you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a bit hard.
We've got some have moved out of the modelling room and into other rooms as well.
Yeah. We've got one in the lounge.
Yeah. Oh,
What's it called?
oh.
It's a
Kevin McElroy asked a question. Is that 3-inch wing offset really necessary if not flying competitive all-time stunt? Are you talking about the Ringmaster, Sparky's Ringmaster, Kevin? It didn't have 3-inch offset.
No, we've lost Sparky.
he's gone.
Sparky disappeared.
No, I'm here.
Oh, you're
Oh,
right.
yeah.
There you go. Okay. Does that Ringmaster have one wing longer than the other?
Yeah, about a 1/2 inch.
Okay.
Here's my pile on the floor.
All the voodoos.
Yeah, all the blues. Then we got one on the wall. One
Yeah.
in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And then one hanging on the wall up here.
Mm.
My little one-room apartment.
I had a whole lot in my parents' attic, and I had to pull them out. So, still trying to find room for more models, and we had to list some on our local auction site. I decided I'd have to get rid of some models, get rid of some of the radio models or models I didn't build. But I think one thing that a lot of modelers find is you inherit models from those modelers that can't fly anymore, and you don't want to get rid of their models because it's a memory or a keepsake to memory of that modeler. And I suppose when you see those models that were built by the greats, whether it's Bob Gisek or George Eldritch or anybody of notoriety, then you think, well, that model's a bit of history. You've really got to preserve it. And I've got a couple of models like that that are from famous New Zealand flyers, and you end up building your own little museum in a sense to remember those famous modelers that were.
Well, it's funny because you end up with the point where you got so many models, you're hanging them from the ceiling, putting them in anywhere you can find the space, really. So, yeah, I don't know. Next stage, you'll be hanging them in my room.
Your models, but
yeah.
I guess I should consider myself lucky that I crash everything I build.
I got a whole bunch in St. Louis too, a whole pile.
Yeah, well, a number of them are my wife's models, like the Vico Chief and one of the Goldberg Shoespring. That's my wife's, and the Acrobat up on the other walls are my brother's, and the Skyray's my wife's, and the big profile Messerschmitt with the 51, the Super Tiger 51 on, that's my wife's as well. So as the boys build new models and replace their smaller models, they take up more and more room. That's the hard thing. When they were little 049 models, when they started, it was easy to store them. But as the models get bigger, as long as they don't start building big windy size sweepers or something, we'll be able to find homes, I'm sure.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I got 10 models here. Plus some that are under construction.
Well, you're all kitted up ready for summer then, anyway. There's all those behind the wall too, aren't there?
Yeah,
Have you had good for flying?
to see those voodoos fly.
You'll see one fly.
Yeah. Yeah. Here's Ron Hass just joined us. Yeah, got a whole family of aeromodelers. He's referring to Gerald and family.
Yeah. Yeah, my wife started building soon after I met her. I encouraged her to start building a few models, and she's just started her latest build, which is, I can tell you what's Mum's latest build. What's she going to build?
She's going to build me a Big Otto.
Yeah, the Big Otto combat model.
Yeah, I like the Big Otto.
Yeah, we blew up
out there.
Got the boxed in nose with the upright engine on it, right?
Yeah, you can either do it as a side mount or upright, but because it was originally for like an 049 or an 09, we blew it up 50% to put a 35 on it. So the idea there was to just make it a more useful size.
Yeah.
And we just printed the plan off, and we spent all morning gluing the plan together. So if you go and grab the plan, can you grab the plan off the wood-burning stove, Otto? We can show them the plan.
Well, I can tell you one thing. I've got too many planes to count. I'm not going to count them.
Yeah, well,
you got about halfway through. You can try counting them down. I'm not. That's too hard. Tell them that.
He's lost count. Anyway. So have you had a chance to fly any of the Voodoos, Sparky?
No, I was going to fly him Saturday, but I got sick.
Oh, well, hopefully you'll be feeling better soon as the weather improves. We'll have another go at it.
Yeah, the sun comes out.
Yeah, it was rainy today, boy. I mean, it was raining bullets this afternoon, and I'm supposed to blow out of here tomorrow morning sometime.
You see it back there?
Not clearly, but I can see it. There you go. That's about a good focus right there. Let me click on that. Okay. Yeah, Big Otto.
Yeah. And we've got all the formers down the bottom. All the ribs and
it's giant.
It's got a good fat wing on it.
Yeah, it does. It's got a fat wing section. It's got it worked out well blowing it up 50%. Most of the sizes seem quite normal, just like a 1-inch square leading edge, with 3/8 by 1 inch trailing edge. It should work out fairly standard sizes. We'll just have to build up some of the parts.
Let me put it down.
but I'm not sure whether to try and do it with a radial mount or to put bearers in it and run bearers back through it and have the motor upright, because of the fact that the tank is behind the motor, it's not in the wing. Could make it a little bit tricky. We could end up really nose heavy very fast if we're not careful.
Well, guys, I'm gonna go. It's bedtime. I just thought I'd come in and say hello before you guys went off.
All right. Thanks for dropping in, Sparky.
Well, it was nice seeing you.
I hope you're feeling better soon.
I do too. I hope I'm better tomorrow. My dad, I called my dad tonight. He's 96, you know, World War II vet. I told him about me being sick. He said, "Did you go to work on Friday and Monday?" I said, "Why, certainly." He said, "Well, that's that's the way the old guys do it."
Yeah. No kidding. Some people just take off work when they get a cold.
Yeah, I know. All right, guys. You have a good night.
All right, take it easy, Sparky.
Good night, Sparky.
See ya.
See ya.
See ya. Jester.
All right, just back to us two now, along with the tube.
Well, you can count 3, Jester. Well, there he comes. Pick him up. Pick him up. There he goes.
One more for Stunthangar.
All right, a flying cat.
He comes out to fly.
Yeah.
He comes out every time.
Yeah, when we normally fly control
On your lines and stuff.
Yeah, if we're flying on our own field, this particular cat comes out to the circle with us, and he enjoys being there while you're flying. And he generally behaves himself. He knows not to stand on the models or stand on the lines. Being an older cat, he doesn't cause too much trouble, as long as he doesn't hop on the keyboard and kick us out of Stunthangar. But yeah, because we've got 5 cats, he is on the keyboard. Yeah,
We got
he's Wally.
cats. They're actually my son's cats, but they have taken to coming out to shop while I work, so I like having the company out there. But I was sanding one day, and I was sanding the tail of the Cardinal, which has got that carbon fiber strip embedded in it, and I realized that one of the cats was underneath where I was sanding. I kind of worried about that because breathing carbon fiber dust can't be a good thing. And he doesn't seem to be suffering any ill effects, so I guess he's okay. Wally Haskett tried to join us, but I don't see anything but a black box.
Yeah.
Right there.
Oh, hello, Wally.
Hey, Wally.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
He's just getting situated.
See if you can get that.
How's it going, Wally?
Hey, good. How you guys doing?
We're all right. It's just us 3 on video, and we got a whole passel of people on YouTube tonight.
Well, give me about 5 minutes. I got to eat dinner real quick, and then I'll be in with you. But I'm gonna stay in, so I stay in. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And I'll be listening, and I'll get right back to you.
All right, man. Enjoy.
All right. See you, Joe. See you, Rusty. Here in a minute.
All right.
See you later, Wally.
Yeah, old Wally can support a conversation pretty good when he gets rolling.
Well, he's got a lot of interest, and that always makes it fun. He talks about, I suppose it's like Steve too. They've got a lot of other interests and a lot of knowledge, and it makes a good conversation.
Yeah.
Like you've always got those people when you go to a lot. I don't know if you have a formal club meeting once a month or twice a month or something, but it's always a lot of fun when those people with a lot of knowledge share it with you. You know, club meeting, we've got always those people that are novices that are new to the hobby, and they're always hanging out to hear something that'll they're holding on to everybody's words of those that are very knowledgeable.
Yeah. I am a member of 2 clubs, one here in Columbia and then Huntersville, and I try to get to the Huntersville meetings every couple of months. It's about a 2-hour drive for me, but I enjoy that. And our one here in Columbia. I've only been to a couple of meetings. Just joined it last year, and so I hadn't had a chance to get with them since I've been on. You know, I was on crutches and a walker or nothing at all winter. So hopefully now that it's getting more active, I'll be out there with them. We've been having a lot of safety issues out there, so that's been the topic of conversation a lot lately.
Is it issues with the public getting into your site, or
no? It's ourselves bringing it upon ourselves. We got a couple of members who fly planes that are more advanced than they are, and we're next door to an old closed copper recycling plant, and they tend to go over the fence over there sometimes. And one of them crashed a big RC plane over there, and it had a full tank of gasoline in it, set it on fire. And that was, luckily it was just on a concrete slab with nothing flammable around it, so it just burned out until it was nothing but a heap of slag. But the owners of the property aren't too keen on that, and we've had a couple of them land in neighbors' houses way across the street, nowhere close to our, they call it the box that they fly in, and so we're just trying to address some of that and find a safety officer that understands how to be a safety officer.
They do sound like important issues to sort out.
Yeah, the safety officer's got a huge responsibility, and it's got to have a backbone. You know, he's got to be able to stand up to these people and enforce the rules and put them on probation with practice in a buddy box or whatever they need to do. And a couple of members have left actually, and you know, they were offended by being reprimanded. But hey, if you're flying outside of your skill set, then you either need to get smaller planes or learn how to fly the big ones, and don't have a thin skin.
Yeah, you've got to have be reasonable and have other people's safety in mind, and be able to swallow your pride and do what you're supposed to do to fit in with others.
One guy flew a plane into the, well, it's a little, it doesn't have walls, but it's just a shed with a tin roof and picnic tables underneath it. He never hollered heads up or anything, and didn't hurt anybody, luckily. But things like that, there's protocol to follow when you're out of control.
Yeah, well, I can remember when we used to fly at a radio control club, North Shore Model Club, and they flew in what was a busy area now, and our control line field was in their approach path. And sometimes they would stuff it up and they'd end up landing or crashing in the control line circle. And that was not fun. Because you weren't expecting it. You're concentrating on what you're doing, and to have a radio control model fall out of the sky at you wasn't it was difficult because of the layout of the site. And if the wind was going from the wrong direction, people would end up in trees or crashing on what was a road passing through the site as well. But in the end, they moved to a safer site. They basically went somewhere where there was not going to be a conflict, and they moved to a rural area, Greens Road in Albany, where the only thing to hurt would have been sheep. So pretty much they could only hurt each other. But where you've got the public involved, that's really the risk factor, and other businesses around.
One problem we have is that the prevailing wind is typically in the same direction 90% of the time, and our runway is not oriented correctly for it. So and the runway is a polyester fabric mat. It's 15 feet wide and I don't know, 100 feet, 300 feet long. I can't remember now, but when it wears out, we're going to reorient it so that it's pointed into where the wind usually prevails, and that might help some of that. you know, and that way the box they fly in will have the runway parallel with it rather than partway crosswind with it.
Yeah. Well, I suppose some sites have basically they've said, well, we can't fly a model over this weight rating at this site. It's not suitable, and they've looked at the speed, and they'll just say, oh, you can't really do anything over a part flyer size at this site. It's something that some clubs have had to look out for.
Just hang on, Dawn. Okay, that's good. No. Oh.
I've got to go out. I've got to take this cat out.
Yeah.
Causing Otto grief. He keeps nicking Otto's seat.
He just likes it.
Yeah, I'll just take out.
Well,
Bye bye, kitty cat. Wally, turns your camera off while y'all are eating. So when your forks and plates clink, you want up here.
well,
What's that cat's name, Otto?
Gister.
Say it again.
Gister.
I got two of them. One of them is the professor, and the other one's name is Speckles.
Okay.
Professor used to sit in here on that chair behind me, but I don't know where he's in bed with Holly right now.
They always go for the warmest spot, don't they? The most comfortable, warmest spot.
That's it. Yeah. Yeah. You know, there's an old wives' tale or a myth that the cats know when somebody's going to die in the old folks' home, in the nursing homes, and I believe it might be because people that are ill are running a fever, and that's why the cats actually pick them to lay on to sleep.
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought of that one, but yeah, it makes sense. Nice and warm.
Have you ever seen that medical show called House?
No, sorry.
That's where I actually got that bit of information. So I'm reporting information that came from a fictional TV show. So, but I hadn't thought of it. So maybe it's true.
You know, they always know which car was home last when we come home.
Yeah, it's one thing that they do. They generally just sit on the bottom of the car and they just sit there for ages. And
Yeah,
just
they know which one's warmest anyway. Yeah.
Even though the car might be in the shade, they know that
We got Frank Washburn with us over on YouTube. We hadn't seen him on here much lately. He dropped in one night recently. There's another guy named Howard, and I don't remember where he is, but he always had a really neat, bright shop. And we hadn't seen Howard in ages. But people come and people go. But we've got a good core group here that usually fills it out pretty well.
Yeah. Well, we've got our club meeting tonight, so we can look forward to going along and having another natter later on. But
it carries on for ages.
Do y'all have your meeting at the flying field, or do you have it like at a conference room or something somewhere?
Well, we're very lucky. We've got a heritage building. When my wife worked as the council heritage advisor in one particular council, West Auckland, or the Waitakere City Council, she was in liaison with a lot of the heritage groups. So we've got the Mill Cottage in Henderson, which is a beautiful heritage building with all displays of particular buildings and dams, and it's just photographs around it and different displays where they open it for the public. We've got that as our meeting room, and it's quite neat because you can look around the building, and it's quite fascinating. It's a beautiful old building that we have our meetings at. But before that, we used to meet at another club rooms, but they had a problem just maintaining it because it wasn't always being used. It was being used just infrequently. They had problems with vandalism. Or at least with this building, it's something that's hired out to the public and it's used every day virtually, and it's very well maintained. We're very fortunate to have it.
Yeah, we used to, when I was with Jackson Flyers out at Fort Jackson, South Carolina. We used to use a library meeting room, and it was decent. It was kind of central to everybody, and that group's kind of broken up. But now the Congaree Flyers they meet on Saturdays at the field, and usually bring a grill and cook some hot dogs and hamburgers and fly. So that works out pretty good. And we also have our meetings at the field in Huntersville, and fly in the morning and go out for lunch, and then come back, fly some more, and have the meeting about 2 o'clock. And so that's a pretty good get together. Usually have good turnouts there.
Yeah, that sounds a very sociable way of doing it.
And then you can combine a couple of times a year some kind of fun fly event with a meeting. Like in September, we usually have half A day. So you come to the meeting with your half A planes and fly them, and they give out awards. In fact, those blue plaques behind me are half A awards for like best flight, best appearance, that sort of thing. And I enjoy going to those. That's a pure control line club in Huntersville, and the other one's mostly an RC club that gets a kick out of watching us fly control line.
That's good. Yeah, it's nice to belong to a club where there is a mix of flying, mix of interests.
Yeah, I like watching the helicopter guys too. And I'm scared of those helicopters. So I was talking before, I think I was just talking to the YouTubers, but when the helicopter guys fly, I open my car door and stand behind it and watch through the open window in case it gets loose. But they're fun. They're big fun to watch. Can't believe they hold together as well as they do without just flying apart, because there's so many stresses on those complex linkages on the blades and all that stuff. I guess they got fuel pumps too to keep that fuel pressure up during all that inverted flying and stuff they do, cutting the weeds with their propellers. You gotta be pretty brave.
A lot of them seem to have gone electric now. Even some of the very large scale radio controlled helicopters have gone electric, I suppose.
I love the gassers because they put out so much smoke. For some reason, I'm really attracted to smoke coming out of machines when it's supposed to come out of machines. Speaking of smoke coming out of machines.
Otto's showing things.
Look at that.
It's electric, e-sky.
Is it? Let me click on that.
This is a modern thing.
And can you fly it?
There's a bit of a sad story there. I used to be able to fly fairly well. I would fly a multi-channel indoor model in the lounge, but as my vision's gone and my reactions aren't so great, I was flying with an old friend of mine, and he said, "Your flying's gone to crap." And at that point, I basically said, "I'll leave it. Then I'll just stick to control line."
As long as the television and chandelier are intact, I guess you're okay.
Well, we did pretty good. we didn't do too much damage, but he would come over from Australia and we'd have a bit of a fly together. And he's got very good reactions. He flies mainly larger RC models, the big gas stuff, the big 30, 40 cc engines. But I've stuck mainly to control line, and I'm happy in my control line world, really. I've dabbled with the others, but I'm quite happy just keeping it simple.
I was about to divert the topic when I mentioned smoke, because it reminded me that I was cutting out the nose ring for my my Cardinal, the last piece to go on before I finished the fuselage the other night. And my scroll saw, which is, I don't know, 3 years old, maybe 4, just quit. Something went pip. It wasn't even a pop. It's just something. I heard something go pip, and it quit. And I hadn't had time to investigate it yet. I'm hoping maybe it was the power switch going bad or something. I didn't smell anything. I put my nose up to the motor, and I smelled a little bit of electrical smell, but nothing offensive, nothing that would really alarm you. And it was a Harbor Freight, which is our cheap tool store here in the USA. And so I don't know what's up, but dang, I can't live without my scroll saw.
Yeah.
I got to investigate that. It was one of those $70 jobs, but dang, I thought it'd last more than 3 years. I read reviews for it, and everybody loves it. So
Yeah, it's hard because a lot of electrical appliances are like that, whether it's an angle grinder or a drill or a washing machine or a dishwasher. They just last so many years and that's it. It doesn't seem
boom,
to.
it's almost like it's automatic, engineered obsolescence.
Yeah, we had the microwave go yesterday, but the kids quickly found they couldn't reheat everything they're used to reheating. And
Yeah.
they really miss it.
Yeah, you know how much you needed it when it quits. I had to put some epoxy on the bottom half of my bar handle on my microwave last night because it broke loose. And I hope it holds, because some plastics do not accept any kind of glue very well. And this is that slick, hard plastic. I don't know what it's called. Some plastic expert could tell me, but so far so good. But I got a good set. My test puddle was rock hard this morning, so that's always good.
Yeah, sometimes it surprises you how well you can glue something. I was repairing a tractor one time and it had a plastic roof, a cowl that went along the roof of this old, it was a Fiat tractor. And the guy that owned the tractor said, "You'll never fix that." And I said, I'll manage to fix it. I'll just use fiberglass tape and a ton of epoxy. And I just went and got tons of tubes of epoxy. And he was surprised. In fact, I was surprised really that we managed to glue this plastic cowl back together using epoxy. And it must have just been the type of plastic was a little bit softer. It worked.
Yeah.
To trick. But
Well,
yeah, some plastics, I think those that are a bit softer, like the ones they make the little when you get your plastics like that on your syringes, it's that soft plastic like an ice cream container plastic. Epoxy won't stick to it.
same stuff they used to make toy soldiers and stuff.
Yeah, whereas other plastics that are a bit harder, you can rough them up easily and they'll hold quite well.
Tom
Strange.
Cruise, he says he uses his plastic welder. But yeah, this, unless I wanted to disassemble the door on the microwave, I wouldn't have been able to get in there to do that. So I just pulled it out carefully so that I didn't snap the top off of the bar, and just took a paintbrush and painted everything I could reach in there with 5-minute epoxy, and slammed it together and held it until it set. And that's one good thing about 5-minute epoxy. I don't use it for much, but you can hand clamp it.
Yeah.
Well, strangely, it's like all these electric appliances just go someday, and it's like they're designed to.
Yeah, that's
But
what
it's just
Rusty was
strange.
saying. Yeah.
But some of them are just beyond repair, and they just do it so that you go and buy the same brand, same type.
Yeah, things used to last a long time. Like, you know, when we moved into this house, we had a furnace that must have been 20 years old, and it lasted another 20. And now I've gone through 2 gas packs in the past 20 years. And I'm like, damn. You know, refrigerators, washing machines, it looks like dishwashers, looks like we get about 6 years out of them, and that's it.
Yeah. They're not made to last. Like, when you look at steam machinery, I think talking about smoke, me and the family like to go along to when there's a steam festival and look at the old steam tractors and just the old steam equipment. They have heritage festivals for vintage steam machinery, and everything there is made and designed to be oiled, lubed, repaired, and continually repaired.
Yeah, it's a constant job walking around with that oil gun, squirting the train axles and linkages and rods. That's what the engineer did, I guess.
Yeah.
Hey, Wally, did you have a good supper? Oh, he hadn't got his earphones in yet. Oh, he didn't hear me when I told him I turned his camera off, but I got him back on now. Can you hear me, Wally?
Yeah, I can. I'm back with you guys.
Okay. Good. Did you have a good supper?
It was really good. Hot dogs.
Oh, good. I had to turn your camera off while you were eating because
That's
every
fine.
time y'all would clink a plate, it would show y'all eating your hot dogs. Oh,
Yeah,
is that a bislab? No. Oh, it is a
it
bislab.
is.
All
Yeah,
right.
it is.
What size bislab is that? Like a
That's
35?
yeah, it is. Yep. Yeah, I got an OS. What is it? The FP40. That's my son's. That's gonna go on here. This will
Yeah,
be
I'd say
my.
that's the perfect engine for it. You can put a big old prop on it and
Yeah, yeah.
hang that thing in the air.
Just let it hang there.
Have you ever flown one before?
I've never flown a bislob.
I haven't either. I've been offered to, but I didn't want to wreck it, so I declined.
Yeah, I'll build this one as fast as I can so we can get out there and fly it. My kid, I'm sure, will have a good time with it. I'll put my grandson on it. This will be a good one for my grandson to start playing with.
Yeah, yeah, because it's slow and you can fly it just like a regular, level flight control line plane too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it'll work out pretty good for him. I got me a new gas tank to go in my Yak 9, so I guess it's a 9. It's Yak, that's for sure.
Is it a Sterling profile? Yeah,
Yeah, it is. You've got one just
yeah,
like it.
it's a Yak 9.
Yeah, I've got the India 35 in that, but my tank was just giving me issues, so I ordered a brand new one from Brodak when I got this here bislob. So anyway, I got a couple of tanks. So one of them's for the Yak.
Hey, Steve.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, Steve, did
Pretty
you get
good.
to see it?
Gerald.
Yeah, that'd be good.
An auto and matching flying shirts tonight.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Right on, guys.
Team Wimmer, that's their uniform.
Yeah.
I don't know if I get my wife into a checker shirt, but yeah, the other son.
Gerald. Otto, how's it been going for you, bud?
Well, it's been good. I've been flying. I've been practicing flying in wind, doing loops, lazy eights,
Wingovers.
wingovers.
Well, good for you.
Just trying to perfect lazy eights, really.
Those
Well, that's
wingovers are
all
tough
good.
to get straight overhead, but they'll teach you where your 90-degree mark is.
Yeah.
It looks like it's 90 degrees, and it to the outside observer, you'll actually be maybe 75 or 80 degrees. And it takes a while to figure out where straight overhead is really up there. You got to arch your back and look up.
You do some nice wingovers though, Otto. He's become quite proficient at that.
Oh, good. You got to have horsepower.
Yeah. You know right where to pull that baby down to get you to come back, to fly her upside down.
Well, you got a twin-engine combat ship up there, Gerald?
Oh, it's a twin-engine model, but it's like a twin-engine Showman. It was a local model, a little stunt model. It's got 215s on it. But that's something I did. It was just muck around fun thing. That actually got me back into stunt flying. I took it to a stunt event, and they said, "Fly, come on, just fly." And I thought, okay, I'll enter my twin-engine muck around model in novice stunt, or sportsman stunt. And that was the first stunt flying I'd done probably for 20 years or so. And I thought, well, after that event, I'll have a more serious attempt at entering some other events.
A couple of my Cox Engine Forum friends have built mosquitoes lately, and I put one of them put Norvell 061s on his, and the other one put Norvell 074s on it, and they got me. They gave me the bug. Now I want to build a twin. I've never flown one or built one, and I've got a pair of Norvells I could put on. I think that'd be a lot of fun. But I want to build one that'll fly.
Somebody had a combat ship, some pictures and stuff, and they had a twin. I didn't realize they made a twin 15 combat ship.
Who was that, Steve?
There was somebody on I was looking through something there on Stunthangar and seen that where they had a twin
Oh,
combat ship.
Yeah, there was actually an old combat one that was quite famous in the past. It was called Twin Terror, and I've got the kit there in the wardrobe. It was for 235s though, not for 15s. And
235s? Holy
yeah.
cow.
That's a handful.
yeah, that's a big airplane.
Yeah, I've got the kit, but it's quite an old kit. I don't know if the wood in it would be any good, but just the novelty. I bought it a long time ago. I just thought it'd be a neat way of using a pair of old 35s.
I think if I built a twin, I might use either a single clunk to feed both of them, or a single bladder to feed both of them. I guess a clunk would be better if I wanted to try to do a 4-2 brake. I don't think you'd want to try that on a twin though. You'd end up having one engine not running in sequence with the other one in the brake and have it come in on you and wreck. So I think running
getting them both to run evenly, getting a nice matched pair of engines. Because with that model up on the wall, it's actually had a few different motors on it, just trying to get a nice matched pair that'll perform in a similar manner, and trying to get the tanks the same so that it'll perform well. It's very
Yeah.
fiddly.
Is that
What's
in you there, Otto?
Oh, it's a. I was just looking at Aries
OS 15.
Aries 15.
Yeah, that's what I used it earlier, OS 15 on that, the steel liner ones, but the OS 15 was a popular one. I think Paul Walker used OS 15s on his B17, and Matthew Spencer just posted a link up to Windy's video of Paul Walker flying the B17 a few years back, and that's currently on Stunthangar now. It's one of the recent posts. So you've got.
I need to look for that, because I've been wanting to watch that video, and I've never have run across it. So I'll look.
Yeah, he did the full stunt pattern with that airplane. That was cool.
Yeah, I think that the video, you've got to go to 2 hours 40, and then you see him starting the motors up, and then you see him starting the pattern. But at some point, he loses a motor, and I think he quits his pattern at that point. So it's probably not the best flight, but at least you can hear it and see it flying. That's
I
great.
love the sound they make. And Bob Zambelli's got a tri-engine plane that I've got a video on my YouTube site with him flying that out at Fort Jackson, and the sound it makes is just something unbelievable. And I was filming him one day, had the camera on the tripod, and I didn't realize that he was on 70-foot lines when he came around the first time. And boy, I'll tell you what, I had to evacuate. And I waited until he was going away from me on the next lap to run back and get the camera and tripod before he clipped them. It was kind of funny, but that's a good video though. I can't remember the name of that plane. Calibri. And it's Bob Zambelli flying the Calibri is probably the title of the video.
To go looking for it.
Yeah, that's worth watching.
Yeah, I've got a Sterling P-38 kit to build with 15s, and I've got 2 brand new Fox Stunt 15s to put in it. So I'm hoping that's a pretty good combination for that.
Yeah, you better break those in real well before you trust that plane with them.
Yeah, I would definitely will.
Yeah, I've got the same kit.
So, Otto, did you sing happy birthday to your dad Friday?
Yeah, Dad.
Did you ever guys have a good time?
Yeah, we flew in the morning, and then we went to the aircraft museum in the afternoon. I thought I've got to make the best of this one. So I got a couple of flights in with a couple of models. They didn't want to fly because it was windy. And then we headed off to the Museum of Transport and Technology and dragged Mum around with us everywhere. And she actually said, I enjoyed it this time because we didn't stay long. And
that's what made it fun, huh?
Yeah. As long as she has something.
What kind of birthday cake did you have? What's your favorite kind of birthday cake?
Oh, she made me it was like an apple strudel. It was done with different fruit in it. It was like a spicy fruit roll. exactly. And then my mother decided, who's quite sick, she's got lung cancer, but she still wanted to bake and made some fudge cake for me, and then she made some streusel and other things. But she was still keen to try and do something for my birthday, I think, knowing that it's probably her last one, but she was really keen to do something. But yeah,
Cool.
the boys always enjoy helping finish them.
Yeah.
That was nice of her.
Sorry to hear about the lung cancer, but it's
Yeah.
good. I'm glad she's taken the opportunity to have some fun too, man. That's what it's all about. And that'll make your life a little longer, a little more worthwhile. So try to
Yeah,
have some fun every day.
Yeah, she says she,
I got a flying friend who has terminal cancer too, and so, but he's still flying quickie 40 pylon racing. That's an amazing sport too.
Yeah, I don't know why. There was a thing. It's the thing on TV. Since I had cancer, I watch all that stuff all the time. But there's a new lung cancer medicine out that's over 50% effective for complete recovery.
Wow, that's good.
But yeah, they're trying to push it to get it onto the market, but it has to go through tests and this and that. But I just look at it as a way, if I had it, tested on me.
Yeah, me too.
You know, it's like, it ain't gonna hurt me.
Yeah. I mean, 50% chance. Why not?
That's a pretty good chance. In my condition right now, though, I would not treat anything like that. It's, I'm got too many other issues. But yeah, for somebody that has a chance for quality of life, go for it.
Yeah.
Well, you don't know though. Remember that Star Trek movie where that lady in that bench or that gurney or whatever is like, I drew a new
pill. Yeah, she was going to die. I was
never
going to
can
die.
tell, Rusty.
Doctor gave me a new kidney.
Yeah, gave her that pill.
Yeah, that was funny. Dr. McCoy.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, you
forgot
never
about
know. I mean, if it's out there, then try it.
Bones just had one in his pocket. Here, take this.
Yeah.
It's improved a lot. It's like people that have caught AIDS and they've actually got quite a long life now. They might get 20 years out of them. Whereas when Carl Goldberg got AIDS from a blood transfusion all those years back, it must have been,
I remember that.
it was quite sad. He was here and gone. It just happened so quickly.
Carl Goldberg?
Yeah, Carl Goldberg.
I did not know that.
Yeah, that was way back.
Yeah, back in the 80s, early 80s, and it was just, or late 80s, I guess. It was just, assumed death. But nowadays, it's
if I
not
remember,
such a big deal.
Yeah, if I remember right, that was early 80s when Carl Goldberg passed away.
Really? That was before
Yeah.
they even knew what it was.
Well, they knew what it was because there was a write-up in the, I think it was RC Modeler had a write-up on it back in the day, and my dad was telling me about it, and it just made me sick because Carl Goldberg was making some great kits, and my shoestring, the first kit that I made that I really, really liked to fly, that was a good flyer, Carl Goldberg, it was a specialty,
That was my first 35 size plane.
Yeah, me too. And it's like, no ways. Yeah, Carl Goldberg. It was a bummer.
Well, the one thing is that when you got Sterling, Goldberg, all these different ones, you have competition.
Yes.
And it tends to, these guys push to make the better airplane.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, they all had their stunt models. They all had their trainers. They had, everybody produced something for the market. So, yeah, it's quite amazing. He was such a talented modeler too, Carl Goldberg, when you go back to the 30s and his involvement with the Comet Kit Company, helping design a lot of the models for them. There's some really great videos featuring him in it. There's one, I can't remember who posted it on Stunthangar, and it was a link to one of the early Comet manufacturing videos, and they talk about Carl Goldberg and how he really pushed Comet forward in their development, and then obviously went his own way in time. But it's really fascinating just to see the history of how some modeler can come along and just turn the whole fortunes of a company like Comet around
Yeah.
just by putting in some.
I didn't realize he was such a good free flighter.
Yeah, and when I started radio control, I was flying the Falcons. He had the junior and the just Falcon 56, and then the senior Falcon, and they were good kits, good trainers. I mean, wow, he had some excellent models. I mean, in that Super Chipmunk kit that he had, radio control, it was like 62-inch wingspan. What an awesome kit. I mean, you can't even hardly find them anymore.
I still have one.
Do you?
It's partially put together.
That's a good flying airplane.
That was one of his last ones there, I think.
Yeah, that was one of his last kits.
Yeah, a guy from Canada, he was a pattern flyer. He went to work for Carl when they worked on it together because it was plywood sides. That light ply and how everything, jigged together. It was kind of cool, when they first came out with that. But now if they laser cut that thing, that would be just really a nice kit. Because I remember having to go through there and file all the holes out to get them.
Yeah. You can use better wood now with laser cutting because there is so much more precise and the wood's so much lighter. You don't have to use heavy wood anymore.
Yeah, I went through this bi-slob kit looking at it a couple days ago, and I'm telling you, that laser cutting is just awesome stuff. It's just clean, and the parts come right out. Wow.
Who's that kitted by?
Brodak.
Is it?
Yeah.
Gerald, did your brother get his airplane yet?
Oh, I got my one. My one arrived on my birthday, but he's still working on his Parata. So that's an Alan Brickhouse model, the Parata. But yeah, Otto, can you grab the since you're closer to it? My Victor's turned up, so he's keen to do one, but he wants me to get my one flying first before he embarks on it.
Alan Brickhouse, huh?
Yeah. So
I have his legacy.
Alan was one of our club members at Huntersville.
Oh, you got yourself a vector kit.
Yeah, is that a Vector 40?
Yeah, it turned up on my birthday. Funny
nice.
Thing,
nice.
I got the electric.
I like vectors. I've never flown one. I've watched enough of them fly, though.
Yeah, so Otto was unpacking, checking the quality, weren't you, Otto, the other day?
That's the electric or the IC?
I'll do it electric. I'm keen to give it a go as an electric, and that way I can hopefully use it as a convenient practice model.
Yeah.
Are you going to get the electric kit from Brodak, or how are you going to do that, Gerald?
It came with the electric kit.
It's already got it. You got the whole setup. Nice.
Oh, no, just the electric kit to convert it. It comes.
Oh, the conversion kit for the electric motor. Yeah.
Kit. And then then on the conversion kit, they tell you what motor they recommend, speed controller, timer.
Yeah, you can buy that. You can buy that in a kit from them too.
Yeah. So because of the way we would have to pay duty on it if it reaches a certain amount, I have to do it in stages. I buy the kit first, and then I'll buy the running gear for it separately, and that way I won't have to pay GST on it.
Okay.
But if I bought it all at once, then they'd hold it at customs, and I have to basically pay not just the GST, but I have to pay for their invoicing and examining of it, and the additional charges mean it's easier just to do it in small installments. Suits me as well.
I built a couple of them. In both of them, I stuck the bulkheads in upside down. The back bulkheads where the push rod goes. Because you build it upside down, and I end up putting the bulkheads up normal. So then when I turn it back over, the push rod will run at the bottom. I'm like, gee.
Easy to do.
So I end up patching them and recutting the hole at the top. And it's like the last one we did for that Staris, I actually put them in the right way. Samantha said, "Dad, now don't put them in upside down again."
Oh, Otto, keep an eye out on me, eh?
Okay, well, I'm sorry, but I'm gonna have to sign
Sign off,
sign
okay.
off.
Okay.
All right, take it easy, Otto.
All right, we'll see you, Otto. Good to see you,
All right,
man.
see you later, Otto.
Okay.
Here's a picture since we're showing things. This is my Cardinal with the fuselage finished.
Good.
And let me drag this out of the way.
What do you got? Some
Everything
kind of
except
calendar up there on the wall? Looks like a girl holding her bikini top.
you talking to Gerald?
Gerald, yeah. What is that, Gerald?
I keep telling him that. Send her over here. I need a girlfriend.
Oh, I just noticed that. I'm getting old.
That's not the only one.
We got the pictures around here.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, Gerald livens up the show. There is no doubt about it.
Anyway,
Yeah.
let me turn.
How
screen.
far you got on the kit, Rusty?
Well, let's see. The fuselage is finished. I don't know where it went though. Where'd my fuselage go? Hang on. And oh, there it is. Okay. And share. Okay, there is one look at it. It's everything except for the dope and paper for the fuselage, and then the wing I need to build. And then here's the other side of it. Got the engine mounted, and managed to that nose ring is what I was cutting out when my scroll saw died, which upsets me because I can't live without that scroll saw. But I got the metal thrust 2-degree thrust wedges under the motor there from Tom Morris. But I think it's looking pretty good.
Yeah.
And I can't flex that tail with that piece of flat bar in there. That's 1/16 thick by 7/16 wide, and through the whole rear of the fuselage.
What, was that a piece of carbon fiber?
Carbon fiber flat bar, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And I think, I don't know, can y'all see my mouse arrow circling?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I need to put I think that this might be a stress riser behind the wing root right here. So I might take a 64th doubler and cut it out and run it back here and then put a curve back on it so that part doesn't create a stress riser.
Do you have any more of that carbon fiber left?
No, that was the only stick I had, and I bought it years ago. Let me stop sharing. I bought it years ago when I was in half A and didn't really know how to use carbon fiber, but just thought maybe I'd use it for something. And it sat around the shop since 6 years, and I never really had a use for it until ding, that idea came into my head when I was building the Cardinal. And so I ripped a slot through the whole rear end of the Cardinal and epoxied that in there. And now it's as stiff as anything I've ever felt. You can't bend it at all lengthwise. Now, I don't know if it'll stop any torsional twisting of the stabilizer, but we'll see. It seems to, just with me fiddling with it.
Well, I was going to say is that if you had some little pieces of carbon left, you could stick it from like the fuselage back on an angle.
Yeah, I
on
don't
that coming back, or from the bottom up, and that would stop that stress riser.
Yeah, you might be right about that. I'm sure I could go to the hobby store where I bought that one and get some more of it. But I think that whole piece with the glue cost me an ounce.
Pretty good.
I guess so, yeah. I think an ounce is worth the stiffness that I got out of it. So I think just a pair of 64th ply doublers will strengthen it, because it's more of a push-pull action at the wing root back there. And I believe that would hold it as good as a 16th or a 32nd.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be that much. That's why I was.
Yeah. Steve
thinking if we had a
Helmick
little.
actually pointed that out. I hadn't thought of it, but I was on Stunthangar one day talking about it, and Steve Helmick came back and said, Rusty, that's a hell of a stress riser back there. And I got to thinking about it, and he suggested putting 32nd ply, but I think I've got enough 64th to do it, so I think I'll do that. I might run it all the way up to the front doublers, which are 16ths, but and blend it in with them.
Yeah.
You could always just inset a piece in there as well, I suppose. That way you don't have to run it all the way forward. Just
Yeah.
put a piece around the area in question, and cut
Right.
it out to the root section.
Yeah.
Of the wing.
And with the 16th, you can fare it in and blend it so you can't even tell it's there too.
Mm.
But anyway, I'm proud of the job I've done so far. You
Yeah,
can't
it's looking good.
snail wheel and all of that is already mounted, and it's kind of invisible in the photo. But yeah, I was real proud of the job I did on that. I'd never sanded and shaped a nose block like that, which I know is not any big deal. But it's the first time I've ever taken a piece of 60 grit to a balsa, and man, it's aggressive. you gotta be careful and know what you want to see it look like when you're finished. But it did a great job.
Well, a lot of people, I found myself a long time ago, is that you get better shapes and stuff when you use a more aggressive piece of sandpaper and let the sandpaper do the work.
Yeah.
And not put pressure on it with finer grit.
Keep me from making my shoulder sore too.
Well, yeah, but you get a nice, a better, nice rounded shape, and just by letting the paper take off the wood.
Mm-hmm.
Pushing it, crushing it in, and it's springing back.
I had considered putting another piece on it to make it fatter so I could make it more round, but I'm not going to do that. I think it's serving its purpose now, because that's mostly for stiffness in the nose section.
Yeah.
Oh, that looks good. But I'm ready to start the wing now. So I'm going to go get some new 24 by 24 squares of sheetrock and clean off my table and put those on top of the glass, tape them together, and get to work on that wing.
Yeah. Now, is that done with rods, or is that just the regular Brodeck way with the piece of square stock under the back?
It doesn't have that tab on the back. You talking about on the ribs?
Yeah, Brodeck, right on the plan, usually has a place by.
Yeah.
Sends a
This
piece
one doesn't. This is a Brodeck kit, but it does not have those tabs on the ribs. So
yeah, he'll send you the one with it'll have a 1/4 by 1/4 piece of super hard balsa wood that's painted black on both ends.
Yeah.
That'll be nice and straight and flat or whatever. And then you pin that down on the table.
Maybe that's what maybe I do have that. I'll check in the box and see.
That's usually how most of his kits are done.
Yeah.
Plus it has the rods, but.
Oh, Bob Bishop just dropped in and said hi to everybody. Hey, Bob.
Hey, Bob.
Okay. But yeah, I'm looking forward to building the wing. I always enjoy building wings. I get much more pleasure from building a wing than I do a fuselage.
Me too. It feels like you're moving along and doing something quicker.
Yeah, and it's like I just like the architecture of it. It's just something about it makes me happy. I have to accept that.
I like it when they all come together nice and quick, but then you cover them and they all warp. Oh, that ruins your day, though.
Yeah.
I've had some really nice looking wings, and somehow I seem to always muck it up when I come to the covering phase. But yeah, it's just on the sanding thing, what Steve was saying before with the aggressive sandpaper. It's like when you bogging up a car and you're trying to get a nice finish. Often you go in with a really coarse paper just to cut the bog back, but you still leave it high. You leave it like a 16th high. Yeah. And then you go in with your finer papers, and then you work your final finish in a finer paper, but you do all your cutting, your shaping initially with a very coarse paper. And if you can use a power tool to take it off without any rubbing and any heat, then you can get a much more accurate shape. And it's the same with balsa.
Yeah, a friend of mine that did body work, he called it a cheese grater.
Yeah.
And it was a big thing that he just said, and I mean, he'd just peel stuff off there, but you know,
Yeah,
that's
there's a
how
cheap.
he did it. He was showing me, you know, let the paper or the tool do the work, and then work it down to finer paper. And
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
we've got this-
usually 320 and 220 are my main papers to use on a plane.
yeah, another auto body shop tool that I quite like, but I keep burning them out, is those random orbit sanders. They're really neat because they don't put lines all into it like a orbital sander in the past would, or like a belt sander, the random orbit ones where they take the funny random orbit.
Oh,
And
man, I've never heard of that.
they're great for finishing. They leave you with a much finer finish than the paper would normally be on a normal orbital sander or disc sander, because they've got that random orbit. But I've killed a couple of them. Or I think it's actually 3 of them now I've killed. But yeah, once you get into using it, you realize why you wear them out, because they're just so good.
I'd be interested in seeing the mechanism that drives that sanding plate on a random orbit.
Yeah, if you go along to any of the large hardware shops, they have them. Normally, they've got them with a adhesive back or with the Velcro backed sandpaper you can just buy and stick it on, you know, like a 125 millimeter or 4 1/4 inch disc, or you know, it might be a 6-inch disc, and you just stick it on and away you go. For modeling use, they're brilliant, especially if you get one with a variable speed and you can cut the speed down and really have a good degree of control. It's like you get little mini belt sanders now that are really great for shaping. That's where I often cross over auto body work and restoration work with model plane work. You end up using similar tools. Well, I want to weld this up, I'll just pull my welder out and weld up this little control line part. You know, it's nice being able to swap over between the different things. A lot of the guys in our club are engineers, and they've got their lathes and equipment to work on the gear, so it's helpful too. If you need something made up, you can ask somebody to turn you a Venturi. Or
I wonder if any of y'all know the answer to this about my scroll saw. If it's the motor that went out, you think that's just a standard tool motor that I can go? We got a tool distributor in Columbia, and you know, they sell contractor grade tools, but I wonder, can you just buy a motor that might be standard fit for scroll saws or something like that?
now, is that a brush? Is that a brush motor in that, Rusty?
I think so. It looks like a brush cap on front of it, a little plastic cap with a slot in it. So I hadn't taken the motor out and inspected it yet.
You may just need new brushes.
It's only 3 years old. You think it could possibly be a brush at that young age?
It could be. It could be like a Dremel.
Maybe so.
You know,
That's what the cap looks like. So I think it is a brushed motor. Yeah.
so yeah, you can even if you get to some of these motor places or whatever that has brushes, because they're made of graphite.
Yeah.
You can actually file one. I've done that before. Get the right length.
Yeah.
Then file it to fit.
This one, I was cutting out the nose ring for my Cardinal, and I heard something go pip, and and not even a good old pop, just a little pip sound, and the motor quit dead.
I bet you the piece of graphite flew off the end of that spring.
I hope that's all it is. I'll go out there tomorrow and inspect it. It was Saturday night, and
Who made it?
This weekend when I wasn't feeling bad, and I didn't feel like messing with it yesterday. So.
What kind of scroll saw is it? Is it a Dremel?
Central Tools 16-inch scroll saw from Harbor Freight, $70 job.
Yeah, I'd look on it. Harbor Freight might even be able to get parts of the motor or stuff like that for you too.
Maybe. I brought all the paperwork in and started reading through it. Got stalled reading just the details about how to use it and all, and I learned a couple of things that it would do that I didn't know it would do. So I hadn't gotten to the parts list and all that yet. So I'll look and see. But I'm distressed that it's broken because I need that scroll saw. I never knew how bad I needed one till I got one.
You
Yeah,
got
if you can send pictures or whatever, we have Fixall here in town, and Chuck is good when it comes to anything with motors, and he can get different motors and
Yeah. Granger could possibly have it, I guess.
I'll be
You
back in a
did-
few minutes.
Okay.
right
Y'all
there.
have Granger up there?
Yeah, I find Granger's expensive, and it's always hard to find the stuff that you need,
Yeah.
you know. But usually you can, you know, if you can find a motor shop in town, there's probably still one around. If you check, you know, like say if you even check with HVAC guys or whatever,
Yeah.
to find out if there's a motor shop in town, because some of the big motors they still put bearings in and this and that. And
Yeah. I know of a couple of motor shops because I had a swimming pool, and if you got a swimming pool and do your own work, you're gonna know where the motor shops are.
right. They may have all, you know, the little parts and pieces or, you know, to put that back together. Because I took my mom's actually her charger for her golf cart. And
Yeah.
I forget what they wanted for a new charger. And I had a feeling it was in the charger and stuff and not the batteries and stuff. And I took it down there and it was just a diode that was bad. And I think $20 they fixed it for me. But these guys are good at like pool pumps and anything to do with motors or
Yeah.
batteries and how they charge and
Yeah.
you know.
The YouTube crowd agrees too that it's probably the brushes. We got Bob Bishop and let's see. Yeah, Bob Bishop saying it's probably the brushes, and he also advises the good rule of thumb is never buy anything from HF that plugs in. But I did because I couldn't afford an expensive one. I'll look at it tomorrow though. Hopefully I'll.
They're all made there. I bought mine at not a flea market, at a pawn shop, and I got it for $35. And it's been a pretty good scroll saw. But
Yeah.
You got a voltmeter?
yeah, a bunch of them.
Have you ever heard of Central Tools before?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's New Harbor Freight.
Yeah, it's Harbor Freight. But Rusty, have you got a voltmeter?
Oh yeah.
Put your voltmeter on there and see if you got your voltage going to the motor, and then from there you can go to the brushes, and if the brushes are all good, then you probably got a short in the armature. That's pop that you heard. A lot of times it's like they say, there's a good chance it's brushes, but there's also a real good chance that there's a short inside the armature. They're famous for that.
Yeah. I didn't smell anything alarming, but you're right. It could be.
But you just get in there and do a little checking and see. What you can do is get the numbers off the motor, call your motor people and see if they have anything that'll cross over to that number if you have to buy a new motor.
It could even be the power.
The Harbor Freight might even be able to order you a motor on that on your parts list.
Maybe so. Hell, it could even be the power switch or something as simple as that.
That's what I say. Get your voltmeter out and start doing your diagnosis, and just go from one step to the next down the line until you know, it's definitely in the motor.
Yeah.
Now you can take your brush covers off. Well, the brush covers look good. Your copper wire connectors are all good. Now you can go in towards your armature, look at your commutator and see how the brushes are running on that. Make sure it's all clean.
I can do the troubleshoot. I got a degree in electronics engineering and made a career out of it. So.
You know what to do then.
Yeah.
You know what to do. You can chase it down to whatever it's, your chances of being a stator is very, very slim. Brushes or armature is probably where you're leading if you have voltage to the motor.
I'll report back and let y'all know what I find.
Yeah. Well, I did 35 years of this type of stuff. So
let me clarify. I have a degree in electronics engineering technology. It's from DeVry. It's not a I'm not a full-blown engineer, but I made a career out of it. So I'm good to go with troubleshooting.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, you'll be able to figure it out.
Yeah, you'll get there.
My best friend's an HVAC guy too.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he should know where to, get any parts and stuff like that. Otherwise,
Yeah.
bring a shaft out and hook it to like a 2-horsepower motor with a belt drive on that thing, and you'd be able to cut 2-inch wood and stuff.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. And just serious scrolling. Hey, I got an old pool motor. I think it's a 1.5 horses.
Yeah, I wish, and I was stupid when I was younger, but somewhere my uncle got a scroll saw, and it came out of one of these furniture manufacturers. And that damn thing actually had probably like a 3/4 horse motor on it.
Holy cow.
That came up there, and you could set it up to use different size scroll saw blades and stuff like that. And I was going to get it, but it weighed like 150 pounds. The thing was so heavy, but it was an industrial scroll saw motor, or a scroll saw.
Serious drive wheel on that baby.
Yeah, well, and it didn't have that big of pulleys on there. They just used all horsepower from the motor. But, they must have had the right speed or whatever. But, Grand Rapids was known as Furniture City. And when all the furniture companies left and everything, there was a lot of that stuff around for a long time.
Huh.
But I don't know how many furniture manufacturers we even have left in town, if we even have one. But
yeah.
Because you've
I
seen
wish
the
I
same
still
thing.
had my old fluke meter, but I got sick and left the shop for a while, and when I came back, my fluke meter was AWOL.
I've been going to the boss and say, hey, you owe me like $250
Yeah.
or 300, whatever.
Yeah.
Them things cost.
Yeah,
It's
things were
crazy.
expensive.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
solid though. That was a good meter. It was one of the
Yeah.
old push buttons with a row of buttons up and down the side of it.
Yeah. Yeah, Fluke is still,
They're the top of the line, man.
but you pay for them, that's for sure.
Yeah, their 87 is still, Model 87 is still the most popular multimeter in the world.
I still got my old ICO oscilloscope. It was made for working on black and white TVs. It had the vertical and horizontal presets on the attenuator, not the attenuator, but the selector. And those things are great. I think everybody must have had one of those things. You could get them as a kit or pre-built. And I got mine as pre-built. I think my mom gave it to me for Christmas when I was about 17 or 18. And it's still sitting out in the shop. Yeah, I turn it on once in a while just to heat it up.
I'm kidding. Yeah, I used one back in school in the 80s. That's the last time I've ever touched one of them things. But,
I suppose a lot of people built their own electronic circuitry. It was like a real thing in the 80s. You could, when the microprocessors came out, you could build all these little things, build your own amplifiers and timers and counters and a whole string of around here anyway. It was quite a craze, and there were a lot of little electrical shops. There's Dick Smith's and David Reed Electronics and other shops selling hobbyist electronics. And there was a crossover with model plane flying, but it was very popular for a while. Whereas nowadays everything's so cheap, nobody's going to build their own amplifier, build their own power source or anything that was popular in the past.
yeah, a buddy of mine, he built Heath kits, radio control.
Yeah, back in the day.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
was
I've
for-
seen those.
Yep, the old Heath and the old Craft kits.
My dad,
back
when I was about 5 years old, or maybe younger than that, old enough to remember, my dad built a Heathkit stereo amp. on the card table in our den, our lounge, as Gerald calls it. I think that's what we call our den. And he'd always build while I was asleep in bed. So I guess probably so I wouldn't come in there and mess with him with all his resistors and capacitors and stuff all over because it was a tube system. And man, I love working on tube stuff, but I'd still wake up and go in there while he was soldering, and he'd make sure I stayed out of his mess. But I carried that thing off to college years later, and it was a good stereo amplifier. It didn't have all that great a sound, but it was loud. That's all we cared about.
When you're
Well,
young,
wow. If you get any of that old stuff with tubes, it's worth a fortune.
The first album he bought after he finished building it was Meet the Beatles.
Oh,
It was
okay.
the American release of one of the early Beatles albums.
That's like my brother's got a Fender Reverb, I think it's called, a little, it's an amplifier for his guitar. And my dad bought it for him in the 70s. And he paid like $125 for it. And it was a tubed amplifier. It was used and stuff. And the big craze then was electronic, all the electronic amplifiers and stuff like that. I forget what that thing is selling for, like $3,000 some dollars now.
Oh, crap.
Everybody wants the tube one.
yeah.
My
got their
first,
own-
later on, my first next tube amp was a Stromberg Carlson. And that was a pretty good little amplifier too. I've looked it up on YouTube to see if, it was a common thing, and it apparently was. Big old metal box with a whole shitload of knobs and switches across the front. But
Oh yeah.
Stromberg was a pretty good make.
I think Macintosh is about the only one that makes the tube amplifiers and stuff anymore, and you'll pay $7,000-8,000 for one
Do
of
they
them.
still use the traditional old tubes that we remember?
Oh yeah.
The power amps, the 6 BQ5s or something like that. I can't remember any of my tube numbering anymore, but that sounds familiar. That's, I think, what the push-pull amps, power amps were on my little Stromberg Carlson amp.
I think Stromberg, they still make speakers, don't they?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think they went completely out of business. They got in trouble over a loan with the military or something like that and kind of disappeared. And let's see, Minnesota Mike says, I have a few Heathkit radios. They still work too. Ham radios.
Oh yeah. Heath is still in business. They make stuff for HVAC, but it's not kits anymore.
Yeah. I bought a Kenwood amp later on. It was a more modern amp for my stereo. There was actually a really nice amp, just a head for my home stereo system. And it came also as a kit, but I bought the pre-built one.
Yeah, I know. I don't know who owns Heath anymore, but Zenith, that was, Heath was part of Zenith.
Was it really? I didn't know that. The first transistor amp I ever had for my stereo turned out to be a really smoking good sound system, and it was Dynaco. And I got it for Christmas, and I came in drunk from a New Year's Eve party and finished it New Year's Eve or New Year's Day, I guess. And I couldn't have been that drunk, but I remember going out to party. When you're 21 years old, you can do shit like that and get away with it. I could never come in drunk now and build a damn amplifier, but I did. I had that thing cranking out music on New Year's Day after getting it for Christmas. I was going through some old papers the other day and found the schematics and the checklist from the instructions for it.
Well, yeah, I mean, when we were kids, Radio Shack, you could buy a lot of stuff in there.
I used to laugh at people that bought Radio Shack stuff though. But I don't think I was right in doing it. Some of their stuff was okay. Optimus speakers. I think I remember that name from their stereo equipment.
Yeah. Yeah, I had one of their first computers, a Tandy.
Yeah.
That thing, it ran and ran, but
Yeah.
when we were a lot
cassette.
younger though, you could go on there and you could buy, resistors and
Mm.
diodes and
Right. You had to boot that Tandy with a cassette tape, right?
no, mine booted with a floppy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
3 1/4 inch.
No.
Whatever
that
that 3-inch
No, it
was.
was that great. It was the big one.
Was it the 6-inch?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, 5.25, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, what really bummed me out was my second computer that I got. I ended up going to college. They used a 3.5, so that made all my damn floppy disks no good.
Yeah, they are. You can make reed valves for Cox engines with them.
Yeah.
You can make reed valves for Cox engine with those discs.
Oh, no kidding.
Cut them to shape and they work okay. They'll work in a pinch. They don't last long.
But yeah, I don't know why I keep them, but from college and stuff like that, I still have a whole bunch of floppy disks with all my different stuff on it from school.
Oh, wow.
What would you plug it into?
I have a computer that I could still plug them into.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's the hard thing. It's the backwards compatibility these days. Got all these old pictures and things. I don't know how I'll ever use it. Got all my old floppy disks as well. I've saved from eons gone by. Old computers that I stuffed up in the attic. I don't know how I'll ever get them working again now. But yeah, I suppose it's the memories that make you hold on to them.
I still hadn't tried the VHS videotape trick with the airplane to tie it to the back of it and fly it at dusk and watch the tape glow as it goes through the air. That was you, wasn't it, Wally?
No, that was,
Was that Terry?
I think that was Terry.
Yeah.
I've never done that.
I've never even heard of it.
Yeah, he's done it.
He said somebody played a trick on him one day and put a whole spool on the ground. And when he took off, it just kept unwinding and unwinding and unwinding and unwinding. And so he flew it as high and long as he could until he had a huge spiral of tape and finally cut itself.
Yeah, that was Forbes. Yeah.
But supposedly it glows if you fly it at dusk.
Oh, no kidding.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it probably put out some pretty neat colors.
That'll be a lot of fun. Something else to try. One of those novelty things.
I got to step away for a second. I'll be right back.
All right.
Well, Gerald, it did go flying yesterday.
You got some reasonable weather now.
Yeah, finally got a good day to go. It was really good too. It was fun. Yeah,
It was like 76 here today.
Oh man, it's been warm here, but the wind. Yesterday was the first day we haven't had, a lot of wind where you could actually go.
Yeah, Saturday we were gonna fly, but Samantha had this college thing where I had to take her down there and go through the school and talk to professors and all that kind of stuff on the classes she wants to take. And then she had to do some moving from her mom's, and so that took up that day. And then yesterday, both of us, I don't know if it was something we ate there at that school or whatever, but both of our stomachs were just trashed. I felt really bad. I'm feeling better today, but still not 100%. But yeah, we had perfect weather. I mean, there was like 2-3 mile an hour winds. Saturday, Sunday, it was in the like 70, 71. Been a perfect day, but we didn't get to go. But
yeah, I think we made 74 here yesterday. It was really nice, and we may have had a couple 3 mile an hour wind, but it kept changing directions. It started from the south, and then it ended up from the north. And I tried getting some video, and and it just didn't work out. I was looking into the sun, and yeah, where I was positioned, it wasn't any good.
It's hard to shoot good video. You've got to get everything come together. You've got to have good light and everything sort of got to work.
Not only that, you got to have somebody who knows what they're doing, and I ain't worth crap when it comes to doing pictures and videos.
It has anything to do with electronics. I ain't any good. I'm just lucky that I can click on these buttons now with this new computer and I get on here.
It's freaking magic. It's amazing. I still find it hard to believe that all this shit packed into one little box works at all.
Yeah, yeah, it sure is amazing.
When it goes wrong,
Just like my phone right here, that phone. I mean, all the stuff you can do and the memory that's in that thing, it's incredible.
It's a huge supercomputer from the 1970s, 80s even.
Yeah.
90s, hell, I don't know.
I remember a motorcycle that I bought in the 80s, and it had some kind of chip in it or whatever, for electronics. And it was a Kawasaki 750, and one of their advertising thing, it had more computing power than the Apollo 13 or 12 or whatever one they said at the time.
Yeah.
It's like, wow. And I mean, now, if that had that back then in the 80s, what do they got now? Really, these spaceships had nothing then. They had no computing power, what we consider computing power now.
No, not much. Not at all.
But yeah, I remember when I was I think I was 13. I got a motorcycle and dirt bike, and it was like $425, and a kid on the bus got his dad to buy him a Texas Instrument calculator, and it was $10 more than my motorcycle.
Oh wow!
Wow!
And I'm like, you got to be nuts! You got a calculator, But he's probably making a whole lot more money than I ever did.
Yeah, you never know, man.
Well, it was like that with those early digital watches. I remember those, the ones that had like LEDs on them, the bright red LED, and they would only come on when you pressed a button because they drained so much power. So you have this huge watch that cost like $1,000, and you can only use it when you press the button and read it, and you realize that sort of thing wouldn't have lasted, but it was just a great novelty, and people with the money would buy it. And
yeah, I had one that had the little not LED, but the little charger from the light. It would, because it used so much battery, that it would actually charge itself.
Yeah.
And I dropped it, and it broke that, and then within a day it was dead, and the watch was gone.
I've got the shell of my old Citizen watch. I think it was that old Citizen watch was from the about 1980, and that thing cost a fortune. We got it when we went to Fiji and duty free, but it was heck of today's it would be huge money.
Is that a Seiko?
No,
It was a Citizen water resist 100, but yeah, they were a really expensive bit of kit back then. And
oh yeah.
but, I just kept it as a keepsake. It died many years ago. Yeah, they had value. I suppose like the old calculators in that era, like you say, they were a very expensive piece of kit.
Bob Bishop in Minnesota. Mike are ruminating about what computers might be like in 20 years, and I'm thinking quantum strings probably. They're already actually working, but they're so error prone, they're not terribly useful yet. And it's also not something that'll be tailored for the home user either. It'll be something for scientists and industry.
Now they'll have one
say that now, but that's what they said about desktop PCs back in the 70s, who the hell would want a computer at home? You know, so who knows? Or multi-dimensional type stuff, you know.
Well, more than likely they'll have one like your telephone. There'll be a telephone in it, and you plug it into your ear and it'll interact with your brain somehow.
Yeah, a brain cap. You know, Arthur C. Clarke wrote sequels to 2001, and there was a 2061 and a 3061. And in 3061, they had brain caps that were accessing the whole world's data like we use Google today. And that was quite interesting. But
Yeah,
we're talking about technology that works with nano and sub-nano filaments into your brain. And I'm
that
not
was
quite
like
ready
me and
for
my
that.
brother were big on Star Trek and stuff, and you know, everybody thought it was so crazy when they talked to their computer. You
Yeah.
know, and I mean, we do it all the time now. I'm just waiting for a phaser.
Me too. I've wanted a phaser so bad for so long.
Just get pissed off at somebody and put it on stun.
Make them disappear. There'd be no evidence left. Yeah.
Isn't it a coincidence that tasers are so similarly sounding to phasers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Did you ever- there was a show about lawyers, and William Shatner starred on it, and he would do Star Trek reference jokes once in a while, and it was in the flip phone days, and he'd open his flip phone and start dialing it, and it'd be making Star Trek communicator noises, and thought that was funny as hell. William Shatner's a hoot.
No, it's actually funny you say that, because last night we were watching a video on the space shuttle history, and it was and he was the commentator, was William Shatner. He did a bloody good job of it. It was really quite neat.
Really?
It sort of traced through the whole history up until the retirement of the last shuttle, but it was really great. The kids enjoyed it, and wife enjoyed it, so it must have been good. And you can get the whole family watching
Was
it.
that on Nova or something like that? I don't know if y'all get that show or not. On our educational TV network, we get a show called Nova that does
We found it on YouTube. It was quite neat. I'll find it'll be in the history. I'll find it and I'll send you a link to it if you want.
Okay. Yeah, thanks. If you could run across it, I'll look for it too.
Yeah, Samantha and I, we were watching some movie or whatever, some old movie, and the guy gets out of his car and he grabs his bag and he throws it over his shoulder and stuff like that. She's like, it's like, what's that? I said, that's his cell phone. She said, what? I said, yeah, that was like the first one. Me and my buddy went in on it together because we were building houses and stuff, and it was a bag phone. It had like a 10-pound battery in it.
Oh yeah, I remember those.
You always kind of plugged into your car and stuff like that.
That was what we used to use years ago in my work, when I used to work for Land Information New Zealand doing survey work. It's an old Hewitt Packard scientific calculator.
Oh yeah.
It was a bit like a computer. It had a programming function to it and a fit manual to work the thing. But yeah, and that's from the mid 80s, I think, that one.
Did it have the reverse Polish notation for entry, data entry? You remember that? Some brand had a weird organization for typing in the variables when you were multiplying and dividing strings of numbers. We called it reverse Polish.
I can't remember that.
I don't remember if it was HP or not. Most of us had Texas Instruments in college, but I don't know. I don't know who it was.
I still got a slide rule around here someplace.
I got one out in the shop on the work table, but I don't remember how to use it.
I was messing around with mine a couple years ago, and I was getting back figuring out how to use it, but it's just hard to believe, you know, that was the way to go, you know, up into the late 70s and stuff, because these calculators, like I said, you know, so much money.
Yeah. Yeah, well, this thing still goes. It's still working.
Yeah.
Back then. I haven't used this for.
How much was that back then, Gerald? Probably.
I can't. Well, I know there were a lot of
hours.
It was part of what we used on the job, so I can't tell you. It was just part of the kit, and they were supplied by the employer. So yeah, all I know is a lot of that stuff was really expensive, and you had to buy a scientific calculator for school or whatever. It was an expensive bit of kit, but that was a little bit above just a calculator. That could, it was like a very early computer in a way, that one. But when I left school, they just did the Commodore 64s coming out, things like that had just come out when I left school.
Bob and Mike on YouTube are talking about RPN calculators. What's an RPN calculator? Mike says he's got it set up, his set up for drag race. And Bob says he uses his all the time.
Oh, heck.
Maybe they'll tell us in a minute.
Well, guys, I got to sign off.
Okay, Wally.
Take it
Thanks
easy,
for coming
Wally.
in. We had a slim video crowd tonight, but we turned it into a pretty good show.
Yeah, we'll drop in Friday.
It's about time to sign off. Yeah, I'm going to wait until we get an answer on that RPN calculator, though.
Well, it's good to hear that you had some flying in there, Wally, and hopefully you get some more. Oh, he's off. He's off.
Yeah, he got out of here in a hurry. Oh, let's see. Here we go. Oh, reverse. Oh, reverse Polish notation. Duh. Okay. So at least somebody else knows that there was.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it was a good show. I'm glad y'all came on. Appreciate your participation and your donations too, everybody, YouTube and our video guests alike. And until Friday, I guess y'all all have a good week. I hope you have good weather, fair winds, and tight lines. So we'll see you later.
Take her easy, guys.
Good night, all.
Bye.
Good night. Bye.